عليكم. أهلا وسهلا بكم طلبتي الأعزاء طلبة المرحلة الرابعة الدراسة المسائية في قسم الترجمة. نتناول الآن في محاضرتنا الفصل العاشر من الكتاب، وعنوان هذا الفصل هو The Semantics of the Sentence Number 2. والعنوان الفرعي لهذا الفصل هو Properties of Two-Place Predicates، خصائص two-place predicates. The semantic properties of two-place predicates can be described in terms of. يمكن أن نناقش الخصائص التي تمتاز بها two-place predicates من خلال ثلاثة مفاهيم أساسية، ألا وهي Reflexivity أو الخاصية الانعكاسية، Symmetry خاصية الاتساق أو التناظر أو التماثل، وترانزيتيفيتي خاصية التعددية. نبدأ بالخاصية الأولى, the first property, which is called symmetry. The quality of having parts that match each other. This can be a simple definition of the word symmetry. إذن هي خاصية التناسق أو التناظر أو التماثل. أوكي، ونعني بذلك تماثل الأجزاء أو المكونات في الجملة. The following are sentences which include symmetric predicates in which the two sentences entail each other. نجد هنا أمثلة لجمل نجد فيها علاقات متناظرة symmetric relations. ما دامت هنالك علاقة entailment أو ما نسميها بالتتابع المنطقي، ففي هذه الحالة تصبح الجمل symmetric أو متناظرة كما في المثال أمامنا. Your book is different from my book. My book is different from your book. These two sentences entail each other, so we say that they have a symmetric predicate. The same applies to the other example. John is married to Mary. Mary is married to John. Since there is a relation of entailment, this means that these predicates are symmetric. These are other examples to show you the symmetric relation or property. Mona resembles Barbara. Barbara resembles Mona. Since there is also a relation of entailment, then there is symmetry. Your elder brother is as old as his sister. His sister is as old as your elder brother. Again, since there is a relation of entailment, then we can say that the predicates are symmetric. Now, sometimes the relation between the predicates is not symmetric, but the opposite, which is called asymmetric. So, asymmetric predicates are the opposite of symmetric predicates. When we say John is wiser than Jim, Jim is wiser than John. As you see here, the two sentences contradict each other. There's contradiction. So when we say John is wiser than Jim, we cannot say that Jim is wiser than John because there will be contradiction. سيكون هنالك نوع من التناقض. Or when we say Mary is taller than Susan, Susan is taller than Mary. Again, if Mary is taller than Susan, we cannot say that Susan is taller than Mary because there will be some kind of contradiction. So, when there is contradiction, the predicates will be asymmetric, okay? When there are some cases in which there is no symmetry and there is no asymmetry, okay? So there are predicates that are neither symmetric nor asymmetric. In such cases, there is neither entailment nor contradiction. So, if there is a relation of entailment, we will simply say there is symmetry. If there is a relation of contradiction, we will say this is asymmetric predicate. If there is no entailment and no contradiction, we will say this is none, neither symmetric nor asymmetric. إذا أحيانا تكون الpredicates ليست متناظرة وليست غير متناظرة، وهذا يحصل كما قلنا حين تكون هنالك لا توجد لا علاقة entailment تتابع منطقي ولا علاقة تناقض contradiction. لاحظوا المثال. John loves Mary. The fact that John loves Mary doesn't necessarily mean that Mary also loves John. John's love for Mary can be one-sided. ففي هذه الحالة there is no entailment and there is no contradiction, so we will say that the predicate here is not symmetric and it is not asymmetric, it is none. Susan helped John. Again, the fact that Susan helped John doesn't necessarily mean that John also helped Susan. So, there is no entailment, it is not symmetric, there is no contradiction, it is not asymmetric, so we will say it is none, neither symmetric nor asymmetric. Now, we come to the second property, which is called reflexivity. الخاصية الثانية أو ممكن نشيرها إلى خاصية الانعكاسية. لماذا سميت بهذا الاسم؟ لأن دائما تحتوي على reflexive pronoun. So, the co-referential relation holding between predicates, أو the relation that exists between an entity and itself. إذن العلاقة التي تشير أو تعود إلى ذات الشيء بين مكون الجملة وذاتها. The following are examples of reflexive predicates. Each sentence is an analytic sentence, and you remember the definition of analytic sentence, it should be always true. So when we say George resembles himself, she is as old as herself, this place is identical to itself. As you see, in all these examples, we have reflexive pronouns, himself, herself, itself. So when the relation here, when it refers to the same entity, we will say that in this case there is the property of reflexivity. Now, when there is contradiction, this means when a sentence contradicts itself, حين تناقض الجملة نفسها, then the predicator is irreflexive. See the examples here. He is taller than himself. She is wiser than herself. John is different from himself. في هذه الجمل الثلاثة نلاحظ تناقضا واضحا جدا، لذلك لا يمكن أن تكون هذه الجمل reflexive بل تصبح irreflexive. When the sentences are not analytic and not contradictory, then predicates are neither reflexive nor irreflexive. حين لا تكون الجمل analytic sentence أي صحيحة 100%، وحين لا تكون متناقضة contradictory، في هذه الحالة نقول الخاصية للpredicate ليست reflexive وليست irreflexive. We say it is none. For example, John likes himself. She loves herself. I hate myself. هذه الجمل الثلاثة they are not analytic and they are not contradictory. So they are not reflexive and they are not irreflexive. They are none. Transitivity, الخاصية الثالثة or the third property of predicates. It is a relation between three elements such that if it holds between the first and second, and it also holds between the second and the third, it must necessarily hold between the first and the third. ماذا يعني ذلك؟ هي علاقة بين ثلاثة عناصر في الجملة، بحيث نقول ما دامت هنالك صلة ما بين العنصرين الأول والثاني، وفي نفس الوقت هنالك صلة ما بين العنصرين الثاني والثالث، فلا بد أن تكون هنالك صلة وثيقة بين العنصرين الأول والثالث كي تتحقق هذه الخاصية اللي هي transitivity أو الخاصية التعددية. سنشرح ما نعنيه بهذا التعريف في الأمثلة. This property exists in compound sentences consisting of two simple declarative sentences having the same predicator and entail each other. إذن تتحقق هذه الخاصية في الجمل المركبة المكونة من جملتين بسيطتين مثبتتين ويمتلكان نفس البريديكيتر وهنالك تتابع منطقي بينهما. They entail each other. For example, if we say Sally is in her study room and her study room is in that big building, this sentence entails the other sentence, which is Sally is in that big building. So this is an example of transitivity. Another example of a transitive predicate. Philip is older than Frank and Frank is older than Mary. This entails that Philip is older than Mary. هنالك تتابع منطقي، إذن هنالك transitivity. If there is contradiction, the predicate is intransitive. إن كانت هنالك علاقة تناقض ففي هذه الحالة يصبح البريديكيت intransitive غير تعددي. For example, that old man is the father of John and John is the father of Joseph. We cannot say that that old man is the father of Joseph. Why we cannot say this? Because there will be a kind of contradiction. رح يصير عندي تناقض. Since there is contradiction, we will say that the predicate is intransitive. Another example for intransitivity, Fuad is the maternal uncle of Abraham and Abraham is the maternal uncle of Frank. If we say that Fuad is the maternal uncle of Frank, there will be contradiction here. So the property here is intransitive. When there is no entailment nor contradiction, the predicate is neither transitive nor intransitive. Okay? إذن حين لا يكون هنالك تتابع منطقي ولا يكون هنالك تناقض، okay، في هذه الحالة لن تتوفر خاصية transitivity ولا خاصية intransitivity. سنقول أنها none، لا تمتلك أي من الخاصيتين. For example, if we say Alice hates Mary and Mary hates Susan, this doesn't mean that Alice hates Susan. Why? If Alice hates Mary and Mary hates Susan, it doesn't necessarily follow that Alice hates Susan. Nor does it necessarily also follow that Alice doesn't hate Susan. Okay? So, in other words, we can say that the compound sentence Alice hates Mary and Mary hates Susan neither entails nor contradicts the other sentence, which is Alice hates Susan. So we can say therefore that the predicates اللي هو hate في هذه الجملة is neither transitive nor intransitive. Another example for a sentence which is neither transitive nor intransitive. If we say, her elder brother respects that teacher and that teacher respects that medical doctor. If we say, her elder brother respects that medical doctor, here we don't have entailment and we don't have contradiction. So we will say, it is not transitive and it is not intransitive. It is none. By way of concluding the discussion about the semantic properties of two place predicates, we can say that. إذن كي نختم نقاشنا حول الخصائص الدلالية التي يمتاز بها to place predicate يمكن أن نستنتج النقاط التالية. Number 1. A to-place predicate can be symmetric, abbreviated as S, asymmetric, abbreviated as A, or neither, abbreviated as N. إذن يمكن أن يمتاز a to-place predicate بكونه متناظر symmetric أو غير متناظر asymmetric أو لا يمتلك أي من الخاصيتين ونشير إليه ب none أو neither. Number 2. A to-place predicate can be reflexive, abbreviated as R, irreflexive, abbreviated as IR, or neither, abbreviated as N. يمكن أن يمتاز a to-place predicate بكونه انعكاسي reflexive أو غير انعكاسي irreflexive أو لا يمتلك أي من الخاصيتين نشير إليه ب none. Number 3. A to-place predicate can be transitive, abbreviated as T, intransitive, abbreviated as I, or neither, abbreviated as N. إذن أيضا يمكن أن يمتاز a to-place predicate بكونه تعددي transitive أو غير تعددي intransitive أو لا يمتلك أي من هاتين الخاصيتين ونشير إليه ب none. This is the end of chapter 10. I would like to thank you for your attention and I'm ready to answer any questions that you have. Thank you so much.